your one-stop shop for great wrestling. WrestleCopia.com, where you'll find an armload of great wrestling podcasts. Some are weekly, some are not. All of them are great. Ray Russell brings WrestleCopia to you, including his own show, The Wrestling Memory Grenade. There's Regional Wrestling, The Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, The Puro Wrestling Academy, Retro Wrestling Review with Gene Jackson, Dave Dynasty's Wrestling Nostalgia, Monday Warfare, Raw vs. Nitro, The Other Shit Podcast, The Captain's Corner Podcast, and much, much more. Great host, great shows. I guarantee you'll learn something every time you tune in to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Where do you find all these shows? How about starting it this way? Just log on to WrestleCopia.com. There's nothing else like it anywhere. Beware of Step Over Sadie. Beware of Step Over Sadie.
I can't take it anymore. My ears are bleeding.
You'll have to beg. Step over. He's at it again. He likes singing these 50s and 60s wrestling songs when he's hungry. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're blind. Ref, you're blind. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're blind.
He's been doing this for hours.
He's got I
can't take it anymore.
You miss it all the time. Get out of the ring. Ref, you're blind. I don't blame you. You can't get him to listen to anybody. I don't know what I'm going to... Wait a minute. I got an idea. Beware of Step Over Sadie. Beware of Step Over Sadie. Hey, Bob. Bean with bacon time. Soup. It's the Outdated Wrestling Hour. Hey, a spoon, maybe? You know, we love me, can't live without him. Howard Baum, that acerbic yet lovable wrestling maven. He's on our show once again for the third or fourth time. And the episode title is Howard Baum's Favorite Things. I'm going to try to calm him down, walk him off the ledge, and just find out the stuff that he really, really likes. Do you think it's a good concept, Joe Puccio?
I do, especially with somebody like Howard. I think he's kind of, his thoughts go in a lot of different directions, and I think it's best not to try to contain them and just to try to, see what sticks. And I think it's going to be an entertaining and jolly good time.
Howard's always great. And I should say that this is the Outdated Wrestling Hour podcast. My name is Bob Smith from Pro Wrestling Illustrated back when Bulldog Brower was still working. That's a long time ago, kids.
That's very
old. Was still working. Monsoon was still working. Good girl of Monsoon. The subject of Brian Solomon's book. He was still working. He was still strapping him up every so often. Good heavens, I'm old. But anyway, that's what the show is about. Outdated is another word for classic. It's the way we look at it. And speaking of classic, I just got word a couple of days ago as we tape this is probably common knowledge by now, but Vice TV's Dark Side of the Ring has been renewed for a 7th season. I know you're happy about that, Joe Puccio.
So happy about it. I've made no mistake about it. It's one of my favorite series. I think they do wrestling documentaries better than anybody. And I guess the part that I like the most about them, they just tackle such an eclectic mix of things. I mean, it's not just going to be your typical documentaries. Oh, a Hulk Hogan documentary, a Ric Flair documentary, a Monday Night Wars documentary. It's not going to be your typical ones. It's going to be just subjects that you didn't really know that they could make a full hour documentary about. And then you watch them and you're like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, from Gino Hernandez. They did one on Dino Bravo. The Dynamite Kid had one. Magnum TA, Adrian Adonis. I mean, these are figures that, who would ever think that they were actually going to settle on a 1 hour documentary, and they do it, and they always do a great job.
I agree. And I had an opportunity to talk to, I believe his name is Evan Halsey, who's one of the directors or producer. Yeah, you got it right.
Yep.
When I did John Rizzi's podcast, that was the first episode, I believe, of John's Revival podcast. And I found him to be a very interesting guy who's really into all this stuff. One thing, though, and this is not a criticism, I just wish they did another show that wasn't concerned with controversies or problems. I would almost love to see a documentary about somebody who was just had a great career and everything was gold. Yeah. Because the one thing the show does not do ever, it doesn't do a particularly fantastic job explaining how these guys became stars or why they were great wrestlers. They just kind of assume you know who it is and then veer off into the controversial things.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not criticizing the show at all, but what I'm saying is I would love it if there was a program where it was just, let's just say Rick Steamboat. This just pops into my mind. How he got as good as he was, how he built that amazing physique, how, he was able to maintain his health and, everything over the course of the years. He did have a health snafu, I remember, about 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It just do it without the lurid content or just digging for dirt. And now I know that's what Dark Side means. There's a whole slew of shows now on Vice TV.
That's right.
It's a franchise now.
Yeah.
And it works. It really works. People are shocked sometimes by what they see, or they just want to get the scuttlebutt behind some headlines.
You're right. There are a lot of spinoffs. In fact, there's one, the majority of them I'm really not interested in until just about a month ago. They put one out, Dark Side of Heavy Metal. And it was going into different things, different genres of heavy metal that I kind of got a kick out of. But in speaking, back what you're saying, I hear what you're saying. I think Dark Side is tailored to more of a sort of like a hardcore wrestling audience, so to speak. So I think they're going in knowing that the majority of non-fans are probably not going to watch this. It's really mainly for wrestling fans. It's not where you can say it's a documentary series where even if you're not a wrestling fan, you might be interested. They're kind of going in with thinking that the viewers have knowledge of who these people are and what they bring to the table. But I will say one other thing about that is it's funny that you mentioned that maybe not the lurid stuff, because I do find in the last few seasons, especially, that there are more episodes where they're really, I don't know if you could really say it's a quote unquote dark side to this person, where it's almost like they're stretching it just to get an episode out of the person. They did an episode on Muhammad Hassan, who is that controversial WWE figure from years ago with the Middle Eastern tint and all that. And, most of it was just about his career. And then they went into that angle, and that one angle was sort of considered the dark side of it. So I do feel like it's not all that way. Even Harley Race, they did an episode on Harley Race a couple of seasons ago. And I mean, you figure, well, what's so dark about Harley Race's career? And I think it was just sort of, his tough guy image and maybe some of the altercations he got into behind the scenes and his roughing around, bruising, roughhousing and bullying around and things like that. So I do feel like that they maybe are sort of veering away from it a little bit. But again, the name of the series is Dark Side of the Ring. So I guess at its core, they do need to have something dark on it.
We'll be back after a quick break.
What, you got a pot big enough to put them in?
All the anatomically correct horses just staring you in the face all night?
I told you guys about the butterfly license plate I had, right?
Every week on Between the States, friends and guests share stories about everyday life.
The kind that make you laugh, think, and say,
yeah, I've been there too.
And the kind of connection you only get when real people open up and share their thoughts.
So if you want a show that feels like hanging out with good friends, where it's fun,
real,
sometimes a little deeper than you'd expect, check out Between the States.
New episodes drop every Thursday.
Between the States, a conversation you'll actually want to join.
So do that at
BetweenTheStates.com.
And available on all your favorite platforms.
Well, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
But I will say that I like Dark Side of the Ring way better than the A&E WWE biographies, which are just fluff.
Oh, me too.
It's just fluff.
Yeah.
I don't even tune in. And I like a lot of the wrestlers they've covered, but a lot of it is it's just too fluffy. It's too It's too much of a house organ, shall we say?
No, I agree.
Self-produced. I'm not into it. Here's the thing. I like to keep it in the ring. I am not that much into the extracurricular activities of professional wrestlers. Call me strange. Again, I like angles. I like action. I like scientific wrestling. I like rule breaking. I like the matches. I'm there for the matches. 95% of why I watch is for the matches, not the interviews or anything else. The matches. I know I'm an oxymoron in this day and age, but I felt that way. And you know why? I grew up in an era where all they cared about was the matches.
Yeah.
Interviews were rare. On syndicated WWF programming, you'd have one interview a week. And it was you'd have local promos. They were about 2 minutes long. But in the middle of the show, McMahon would be at ringside interviewing Fred Blassie's Spiros Arion or something like that. And that would be it. The only interview you would see amongst all the squash matches and things like that. It's just a different era. And I miss that era. I still look at those old shows all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing them originally, which freaks me out because it means my memory is still pretty good, So it's like, Blassie telling bad jokes about Dominic DeNucci. I mean, come on. You got to love it.
No, I hear you.
But anyway, Dark Side of the Ring, they have not announced the roster of subjects yet, but we'll keep our eyes open. If we hear anything about it, we'll report it on the show. And, you can all, where to go to find it, Vice TV, if you can get it. Actually, it's a funny thing. The older seasons are available in a variety of other streaming platforms now. I've noticed that. So if you've missed the earlier ones, check the Tubies of the world and the Plutos of the world. I believe they have wider distribution now.
Oh, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. And yeah, I'm also really looking forward to. I'm really curious to see what subjects. I'm sure it's going to come out very shortly. I know that from what I understand, they've already filmed, or they're in the process of filming some of the episodes already. So I'm sure it'll come out pretty quickly. But
they're doing one on me.
Of course, yeah.
The Dark Side of Bob Smith. It was that 1971 incident where I took a quarter off the counter at the Couchman's lunch. I stole a quarter, and Mr. Couchman saw me do it. And it was just such a controversy. I'm telling you,
that one's going to get some pretty high ratings. Let me tell you, that's going to be.
I'm telling you,
going to be through the roof. Yeah,
yeah. It's and he made a hell of a peach pie. So I don't know what else to say. No, Dark Side of the Ring, it's coming back. We're all happy for that. And we're happy to have Howard Baum back on the show. He really is one of a kind. I have found that when Howard appears on the show, non-wrestling fans love him. I get more non-wrestling fans that listen to the show when Howard's on. I don't know how that works, but it is true. I've had people say, I'm not into wrestling, but that guy was great.
Interesting.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I didn't know before I booked him the first time. And again, he has a past. He was, I guess, one of the original 605 Super Podcast guys. And now I believe he's hooked up with Tony Richards on his podcast. And he's going to be talking about Florida wrestling, I think, on a regular basis on that show. So he's got a lot going on. We'll hear all about that from Howard. Joe, good to see you again, my friend. Glad to see you're looking hale and hearty. And Generation XY continues to kick butt. And life's good, right?
Life's good. Can't complain. And yeah, it's good to see you. And I'm glad we're back in the swing of things, doing this every week.
Yeah. Other than my lumbago, I'm fine.
There you go.
Lumbago always gets a laugh. Lumbago is just a comedy device. It was used by the Three Stooges and everybody else. And I'm telling you, it never fails.
Yeah.
Oh, my lumbago. We'll get a laugh every time. We're old, folks. We're old. I'm older than Chip Howard. Anyway, we'll be back with Howard. Give us a break here, and we'll be right back. I listen to the people who listen to this podcast. And thus far, the people who listen to this podcast go, we really like Howard Baum. Howard is a veteran of the podcasting world, been a guest on several podcasts throughout his podcasting journey. He's recently joined as a regular guest on another podcast. And we have him back here. But that's just the frosting on a story of a life in wrestling for the one and only Howard Baum. Howard, thanks for being back. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, it's lucky we're not on video today because I am blushing from ear to ear. It's
Why
a
would
pleasure
that
to
be?
be here.
Did I say anything? Did I say anything that wasn't true?
Well, it's still embarrassing. Anywho, I appreciate it. Hello, Bob, and hello, wrestling world, as always.
Yes, and I know you know what this concept is, fans, because you saw the name of the podcast when you hit the play button. This is going to be a show called Howard Baum's Favorite Things. Yes, we're not going to talk about the ascerbic. We're not going to talk about stuff that pisses him off. We're not going to get him angry. No. This man has a long storied history both watching and being part of professional wrestling, and we're going to find out what he likes. What do you think, Howard? Can you handle that?
My head is spinning at the prospect. I suppose I can give it a shot. I don't want to blow my image or anything, but, everyone has to make a babyface turn sooner or later.
I don't know where you're sitting from, Howard, but right behind him, he has this beautiful, apparently a painting of Mil Mascaras. It's gorgeous.
Actually, that's a Howard Baum Hardway Art original, which will be available hopefully sometime in the year 2026. But I don't want to be the boy who cried wolf because I'm looking for big things in 26. It was supposed to be 25. It's going to be 26. The website and all that stuff. So I don't want to start talking about it yet and jinxing it. Building up the strength. Like Godzilla turns his little shingles, radioactive, and then it all comes out. I'm keeping quiet. I'm taking the Jimmy Page approach by not letting the public know about it. And then the next thing you know, physical graffiti is on the shelves. So that's what we're looking for as far as hardway art, which I might say you can look into on Facebook. It's called Hardway Art, or you can just friend me, Howard Baum, and I would really appreciate it. You'll be in on all the haps.
Now, I'm not blowing smoke at it. That's really good. And what I'm looking at right here is really,
yeah,
really...
thanks. That's his declare. I took that from an original photo that I took of Mil Mascaras doing his patented, leap off the top rope. One of the images that I always wanted to capture when I looked at the magazines as a kid. Everyone has their version of the Mil Mascaras flying shot. And I only saw Mil a handful of times. I had very few opportunities to get it, but I got him in full flight. And I even showed it to the man himself. I was trying to work out a, business deal with him to, get things going between my image and his copyright and all that. And he was very friendly, very warm. I went up to him and he goes, "What is it that you want?" And then it only went downhill from there. Warm man. But anywho, we're here to talk about positive things today, right?
Yeah, if we can. I remember, here's a little anecdote for you. Mil Mascaras stopped by the PWI offices once because, after, I think, in the magazine days, kind of made Mil Mascaras. He was always putting articles in about Mil Mascaras in the pre-PWI days. Mil Mascaras is all the time. And he showed up, and for some reason, the boxing staff took a liking. And they all posed with Mil Mascaras. I'm thinking, why are these guys who cover, like, Mike Tyson stuff posing with Mil Mascaras? But they were there. They were just in awe.
As far as a visually striking image, he was it. Like,
he really was.
If you actually watch him in the IWA when he was their champion, which I want to get into a little bit, that's going to be part of my favorite things. But because I want to talk about the funky beauty that was IWA and UWF and some of those mid-75 promotions, you feel me? But in the 70s, the covers would be Dusty, Mil, Superstar Graham, Bruno, and Mil looked amazing. He was one of those guys that sold the business just by his presentation, physique, and outfit. And when he came down to Florida, I was extremely jazzed. It was about 1980, the first time I ever saw him live, and he did absolutely nothing. He pranced around like a cat, did a couple of his signature holds, and I'm like, oh, that's the same series of moves that they put in the magazines that makes it look like he's just a Tasmanian devil. And he's really not doing much. He's just doing his shtick, and he goes through it. But it was great for photography because he did those Mexican pretzel holds where they tie you up, and it's like practically posing for the camera. It's like doing a clinic on wrestling photography. Let me do a French surfboard. Then he gives you plenty of time to get ready for when he gets up to the top rope and he's going to jump off. So it's like perfect from the outfit to the entrance to the jump over the top rope. he had his visual shtick down. And if you look at his actual work, it really wasn't much of anything. And if you look at him versus any of his opponents, they all towered over him.
Yeah.
The Italian nobleman Joe Turco looked like he could have killed Mil Mascaras on the IWA tapings.
Excuse me, the Continental Nobleman.
Oh, excuse me. He did change his name for it. Yeah.
By the way, I have been using that for years. The Continental Nobleman.
That's great. That sounds like something.
And he didn't look the part at all, but that was one of the coolest nicknames ever.
Yeah, that was so ironic because he's such a greasy looking guy. He's like the Continental Nobleman.
And then they would say boo, and he would do this weird hand gesture like whatever this means. You can't see this, folks, on the podcast, but it was almost like a hook 'em horns thing he used to do. Remember this?
It's kind of a Dio, but with a twist. Maybe the evil eye and go F yourself at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Turco. Now, this is why I got into the old school podcast. I'm not bullshitting you. This is why I got into this stuff, to talk about Joe Turco.
Of course. But, somebody could write in and tell me the name that he used when he was it was either the IWA or the UWF, which was Lou Thesz's successor to the IWA.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those shows have a very similar look. And for those of you who do not know what I'm talking about right now, I am very 1975 centric at the moment. And because that's when I got into wrestling, it's my 50th anniversary as a fan. And I have been watching the IWA and Lou Thesz's UWF promotions. It was the UWF, right?
Thez?
But sleep up there, baby. Come on, wake up, baby.
I am not sure it was the UWF, though.
Something like that. It had a unit. I was just watching it, but, I'm half senile now,
where
so
are
you
you
gotta let
watching?
me slide.
Where are you looking at it?
Who, me?
Yeah, the Thez promotion. Where are you finding it?
Oh, YouTube. The people will know. I mean, it's
just
very similar. It's a very, it's not the UWF. I'm going to feel like an idiot, but it was you.
Well, did you notice did you notice on the late period IWA tapes that Lou Thez was doing color for a little bit?
No, because I haven't seen them all, because there's only what's available on YouTube.
This is when they segued into the Carolinas and stayed there for before they fizzled out.
I tell you guys, seek out the IWA.
Yeah.
And whatever the Thez is thing that is yet to be remembered by any of us fogies, but I'm going to feel like such a fool. I'm going to remember it. But we've already wasted too much time on this. But
no,
what I love about it.
No, telling people to watch the IWA is not a waste of time.
Oh,
I loved it. I was an underage kid in a bar, and my friends, we both looked old. We would go to this bar at the bowling alley every Saturday night at midnight here in New York to watch the IWA. And people don't realize that was the time slot that Vince took over when the IWA folded. Either that or they brought it out from underneath them. Saturday nights at midnight. Stroke of midnight. Up against Saturday Night Live, yeah.
So IWA had WOR?
Yeah.
Before WWF did?
Absolutely stone cold.
Really?
Fact, yes.
Interesting. Because I tell you, and you're a New York guy, so I can ask you, I was just having this discussion with Steve Gennarelli, right? I am from Union, New Jersey.
Okay.
We were in my aunt's place in Short Hills, New Jersey, the night of the big blackout in New York, 1977.
Okay.
And I was there with a friend of mine. It was the first time that I saw WWF wrestling. I remember Bruno and Baron von Raschke. And right after that, what I'm going to ask you is not even a wrestling question, but I want to know at midnight, Saturday night, if WOR showed Creature Feature or Chiller Thriller or whatever they called theirs. Because I think it was Creature Feature. When the hands came out of the sand and they were like, Creature Feature.
You're not going to like this answer. In my tenure watching WOR, wrestling would end, and it was just general films. It wasn't horror.
Yeah.
I saw the Zero Mostel producers on Channel 9 after wrestling one night.
Huh.
So
well, I know it was
Channel 11 was chiller earlier in the evening.
You know what? That could have very well been it, because I've been known to mix some things around. I know I was being babysat, and I know that they showed that famous bumper of the six fingers coming out, Chiller 3 or whatever it was, right? And even that bumper scared the crap out of me, like, oh my God. And I remember we watched one of the Christopher Lee Hammer movies. And I was 11 at the time, and I thought, this is great, because I was being babysat, and I don't know if we didn't get that. It just wasn't on my viewing schedule at home. Not that my parents would prevent me, but here I am hanging out with this babysitter and watching this Hammer one. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm getting to see this. Even as a kid, I was like, that Dracula's pretty clumsy. Like in one episode, he slips on a thing of ice, and that's the end of him. In another one, he gets tangled up in a vine, and that's the end of him. In another one, he has like a wheelbarrow crash, and a thing goes through his heart conveniently. Like, how much bad luck? I mean, geez.
Yeah, you haven't been on the Entertainment Hour, my other podcast, but we did a show about horror, and Hammer is my jam. I love Hammer movies.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I was lucky enough to be of the age where we had them on Saturday matinees at our local theater. The Christopher Lee stuff, the Peter Cushing stuff, all that era. And all the bombshells were always the, doctor, you can't be serious,
Yeah.
And
which one I like? Like, I don't know which movie it was, but it's like this harem of vampire girls is trying to seduce the guy that's I mean, they all have the same exact plot, right? Like, they have to go to the castle for some reason.
Yeah.
And then there's a vampire afoot. It could be female, could be male. In this case, I think it was the one where it was those two vampire twins, those two hot vampire twins that were running around the castle in their negligees at night. So they were in the pub having some gruel and mead and everything. And the fans of the genre will know, and they're like sitting on the guy's laps and everything, and they're like getting all bawdy and everything. Anywho, I suppose it's time we get into a little wrestling before.
Yeah, better before we get in trouble. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, you've already mentioned the IWA, which is one of my jams for sure. And what else? What do you miss?
First of all, I'm extremely jazzed to be able to do these kind of best of top 10 favorite, because I'm a big list guy, much like George Carlin. And you're a big sports guy, right? Okay. So, in my active days, guys would count like baseball players in order to delay their sexual pleasure during the act, right? But I wasn't a sports guy. So I had to name the chronological order of the NWA World Heavyweight Champions. My problem is I could never get past Whipper Watson. And the girlfriend used to say to me, she used to go, hey, do you think we can at least get up to Dick Hutton's reign tonight? Or maybe if you're feeling good, maybe Luther's second reign if you're feeling good. Anyway, let's get on into it. I just had to get that was the one joke.
There you go.
One joke I wrote for today, okay? The rest of it is going to be dead serious business. Okay? So, I have written down everything I like, just numerous angles, incidents, stories, matches I've seen, people I've met. You can ask me anything from any category, and I'm your man. And I would also like to hear from you, because I don't want the whole internet wrestling community to say what a big narcissistic jackass Howard is, that he would have the audacity to think that people are going to care about his favorite things.
Sir, I came up with this concept and invited you on the show for this very purpose. So if anybody's going to pick nits, let them. All right? This is my concept, and I know you're going to hit the ball out of the park.
Well, hey. Okay, so what can we do? I'll tell you what I miss right off the bat.
Okay.
Guys with exceptionally large, scary heads. Ox Baker, Brute Bernard, Skull Murphy, Abdullah the Butcher, Mongolian Stomper, Joe LeDuc, King Curtis, Bulldog Brower, Bull Curry, Cyclone Negro. Okay, let's converse. Guys with bulbous, scary-looking heads. Who's the last current-looking guy? Not to disparage the modern product, but who's the last? Maybe a Great Khali, maybe Jacob Fatu, maybe that one Samoan that died. What was his name? Remember, he was a big, scary guy. He was cutting through everybody like a big Samoan buzzsaw, and he died untimely. Kokina's son, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's who it was.
Umaga. Okay?
Right.
So the truly scary guy, the truly scary, grotesque, scary, like, oh my God, these guys would kill me guys.
Guys who could sell tickets just from the way they looked.
Yeah.
Ox Baker sold tickets.
Yeah.
Brute Bernard was the drizzling, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But you know what? He had a look that was very unique and a visage that was like a semi-crazy guy and couldn't wrestle his way out of a Pepsi six-pack. But you know what? He had the look that sold in this era. He was scary looking.
Yeah, I just happened to see some of him today because my friend Carmine DeSpirito, great guest for the future. Just want to plant a little seed. Carmine DeSpirito, hilarious Jersey guy. He's my brother from another. He's great. Anyway, he posted a thing, Andre the Giant against Bobo Brazil. I was not aware this ever happened. I clicked on it just today. And it was one of those, it wasn't really that match. I'm like, that's an odd matchup, but it was really the end of a battle royal, a 2-ring battle royal in Houston. And Houston, in that way, was kind of the Japan of America in putting together dream matches that would never would be put together. And here you had this babyface versus babyface matchup of Bobo Brazil and Andre the Giant, both at the height of their powers in the late 70s. And in the other ring, wouldn't you know it, the winner was Brute Bernard. And I thought I saw Brute Bernard before in photos and whatever. There's not a lot of video on him. And I'm like, look at that guy. Is a heel with his arm wrapped up in leather and just the ugliest look on his puss, And that was wrestling because
the 50s and 60s tag team with Skull Murphy. They both looked similar. Skull was a little bit shorter, but they looked Cro-Magnon-like. I think that's the key.
They were both creepy looking guys. And I mean, think about a day before kayfabe for any of those guys. In real life, if King Curtis or Abdullah the Butcher or any of those guys was around you, in those days, you would think that you're literally meeting a throwback to another, whatever.
It's a very interesting thing you bring up, and I'll tell you why. We'll go back to the late 50s, mid 60s, what little videotape there is, right? When the promoters kind of figured out around the country that the old school oompa wrestling, sports presentation was giving way to red turns to green. And all of a sudden, the action got a little tougher, rougher. There's a classic piece of videotape out there of Crusher and Bruiser, young Crusher and Bruiser, beating the hell out of these two guys. And one of the announcers, I believe this was from Chicago, one of the announcers says, I think they're really trying to hurt this guy on purpose.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously.
That's great.
Now, think of the mindset previous and past then. The slow evolution of more brutality as a way of life in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Right about then, I would call it around 65, 66, when probably somebody sold a magazine with a bloody face on it, and it was sold out, and the promoter went, ching, ching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I do, and I wonder about that because, I was on the great Tony Roberts show, and he made me reconfigure one of my very own theories. Because I used to have a theory whereby I said, the 70s is not really the 70s because 1970 and 1980 are worlds apart.
Oh, yeah.
And change really happens towards the end of one decade and toward the beginning of another. And Tony even broke it down. My theory was flawed, and I'm adopting Tony Richards' system now, if I may. So easy when you know the language. Okay. So his theory is that every 5 years, there's a shift in culture involving entertainment. It certainly affected wrestling. I can see it in music because if you look at, let's say, music in 1965, you had the Beatles, you had the Merseyside, you had the Rolling Stones, which were not the Rolling Stones of 1969 and 70, not the Rolling Stones of Meet Me at the Station. It's beautiful, isn't it? Not that. No, they were doing, that little 2-minute Bo Diddley songs and all that. So that was 1965. But by 1969, you had Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Hendrix. And Hendrix changed between 1967 to 1969. So what I'm trying to say is every 5 years, there's a cultural shift. And here comes the wrestling part. Because it always ties in, right? I came in at the very tail end of the old school Kodachrome era of professional wrestling, 1970 to 1974, 75, where everything, even the photos that you took, have that weird look to them like of another era. It's like, for all intents and purposes, 1975 was 1970 because it was just on Mike's shows at Miami Beach Convention Center. You would have George McCreary, like Oki Shikina, like these ancient guys who really weren't anything. And the main events wouldn't really be bloodfests anywhere in the country. If you look at any territory, Mid-Atlantic was tag team oriented. Florida was very championship oriented. There was some blood, but it wasn't Dusty wasn't around yet. 1975, here's where I come in. Here's where 50 years ago comes in. Here's where the theme of the show comes in. 1975, the rise of blood and grit. And I start checking out the magazines. If you look at the magazines in the early 70s, they're like, Dory Funk puts on a awesome wrestling clinic against Tex McKenzie. Check it all out. What does Dick Ackflist do at home? Check it out. Like, it's all pretty tame. The life of a female wrestler, you know, kind of like black and white photos, tin typed and colored in for the people. All of a sudden, 1975, Lou Albino is bleeding like a stuck pig on the cover of Big Book of Wrestling. And I see it in a tobacconist shop. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. I would have rather looked at that than the Hustler that was next to it at 10 years of age. Lou Albino covered in blood with, like, you know, all these Happy Humphrey was on the cover of the same magazine. And I'm like, oh, this is my stuff. And what made it so great is you could actually go to it and you could see these guys bleed right in front of you. So the year I went to wrestling, okay, go Bob.
Around 75 or 76, I got my first job in a chain drugstore, similar to a Rite Aid, right? In my hometown. 16 years old, I was stocking shelves, doing the cashiering, just general help. We had a big magazine rack, right? And on the cover was one of the London magazines. And the picture on the cover was Dusty Rhodes gnawing on the forehead of King Curtis.
Oh, yeah, I know that
Blood
one.
everywhere. And there's this woman walks up to me. I'm standing there kind of looking at it. She goes, oh, that's awful. Take that. Could you put that somewhere? Could you take that away, please? I said, yes, ma'am. And I put it behind another magazine where she couldn't see all the gore. Oh, and it's a moment.
Oh, that's great, man.
Because it showed the psychology of what the magazines were trying to do back then. And, you know, it actually got to be a little bit too much at times. One of those Canadian books, I can never remember who published those Canadian wrestling magazines that would come out, had this headline on the cover. And I quote, gushing flows of blood you've missed until now. Well, first of all, that's not really good grammar. Secondly, what are they talking about? Third, could you be a little more lurid?
Well, you feel the need to catch up now. Like, what blood have I missed?
You're supposed to thumb through the magazine and find out what the photos were. But here's the thing. It got to be a little bit too much in the magazines. I picked up one of the London magazines from around that same period, 74, 75. It was nothing but gore. Every article was just...
Yeah.
Do you remember that time when Stanley was running the place?
I don't just remember that time. That shaped my whole career as a wrestling photographer. That's all I ever wanted to do. I am 3 times the wrestling photographer that I am once the blood starts to flow. I want those pictures that I saw that drew me in, that were on the covers of all those magazines, that were taken by Theo Errett and everybody else. And I envied Brad McFarland to be up there in Detroit taking those pictures of the Sheik and Harley Race digging things into each other's face. I begrudged every photographer who ever took a great bloody close-up in the dressing room. That is one of the main things that drew me in, and I'll tell you why. Because when I came down here from New Jersey, I was a big Fangoria fan, Famous Monsters fan, etc. Never much into the superheroes, but when I put 2 and 2 together, I'm like, this is like a horror movie that I can go to live. This is real blood. I can meet these guys. And so the blood, even though I knew it was real, it never grossed me out. I'm a sensitive kid in every other way, you know? But when it came to the blood, enough was never enough. I was kind of disappointed to know that it was only a slit on the forehead. I wanted broken noses and eye sockets. Because in the early days, when you see a picture of blood, it's really to create the illusion that the entire face is busted open. Because if your face is covered in blood, and a lot of the guys would close one of their eyes, which would make their eye either look swollen shut or whatever, you know. It was really a cut on their head, but they make their whole face look messed up by bleeding all over it. And I'm like, did this guy get his nose mushed? Did he get his eye taken out? And the lurid descriptions and everything in the magazines egged me on, made me want to take those photos, made me want to see those matches. And I don't even get excited around wrestling until the blood starts flowing.
Everybody got in it for a reason.
So, hey, this is what you get for your guests.
Since we're talking about wrestling blood, name a match you didn't see that you wish you could have been at, because mine just jumps right into the forefront.
Didn't see it all, or that I saw... Didn't see it all.
You didn't have an opportunity to see, but it's become legend for its sheer violence. Because I have an easy one. Mine is 1971, the Los Angeles Olympic Blasey Tolos. Actually, no, that was in the outdoor stadium, wasn't it? That's right. It's the one that drew 22,000 people. That's right.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with all that. I mean,
the Blasey Tolos was just, oh gosh. That was the prototype for the double juice, animalistic, we're going to kill each other, violent.
Yeah. And in those days, when you're a kid, the imagination runs wild. And I remember seeing pictures of like Abdullah against Ernie Ladd in a big bloodbath. And I'm like, oh, this is just tremendous, because I wasn't even familiar with them yet and whatnot. I'm like, this is just great. These two big behemoths bleeding all over the arena. And it was just so great to be a mark back then, because for you to believe that these things were, it wasn't so much a matter of is wrestling real. It wasn't at any time that I particularly believed it was real. I didn't know how it worked by any way, shape, or form, but I was just more fascinated with the personalities of who are these guys really? What is happening here?
You say that so well, because I'll tell you what, I was the same way in those early 70s, because I guess I'm a little older. And like I go back to 72, watching Freddie Blassie gnaw a guy's head open on the WWF. I mean, without censorship, it was just, he just chewed him to pieces. Yeah. So what is your first thought? My first thought was, how are they doing this? How is it? You know, because you're always skeptical about wrestling, even if you're young. You're like, this can't be, they're so goofy. This can't. And then you see something like that, go, how are they doing this? How are they getting away with this? How did he make him bleed? Did he really bite his head open? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's that mystery behind it. That's the allure.
Well,
you want to see, and you hate it. You're repulsed by it, and you want to tune in next week to see more. Only wrestling does that to you.
Well, I got very lucky. As we know, my origin story was watching an incident forever known as the magazines call it, the night that Louis Tillet almost cost Sir Oliver Humperdinck and I. Oh my God! And I finally found it and I posted it. I was so happy.
I saw that.
Louis Tillet. Yeah,
I saw that when I worked at London, where you had the big photo library and all the back issues. One of the nice things about working at PWI was you had all the Stanley Weston magazines in binders, everything he ever did. So I'd look at them all the time. I'd just be flipping through there, and I saw this article. Whoa! So I get up and I go to the photo files, and I look up Louis Tillet or Tillet. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. To this day, I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Tillet. I go with Tillet.
But I find it, right? You should see the stuff that didn't make the book. At one point, it looks like he's jabbing a stick directly into his head through his eye.
No, I think that one made it, because if you...
Oh, that one did, yes. The one where the blood is streaming down the side of his head, yes.
Yeah. And you know what was so great about that? I totally relived it when I found it on the internet. I actually found that page on the internet, and I was so happy, because I'll tell you what, in my career ever since then, I really have never come across such a graphically disturbing photo.
Yeah.
Because they don't usually show somebody jabbing something into someone's eye with a gigantic river of blood flowing out from beneath the eye. And I distinctly remember that's so great, because that was, not only did the magazine reinforce it, but that was the first angle I ever saw on TV. And I cannot honestly say in good conscience that I would be a wrestling fan if I didn't see that angle on that day.
That was a TV match?
Huh?
That was an uncensored televised match?
Yeah. That was my first exposure to professional wrestling.
This I did not know.
In 1975. This match took place in April of 1975, and I think it aired on some kind of a time delay. We had just moved from New Jersey. I completed 74 The year of 1974, our Lord, I was in third grade, no wrestling on the radar. 9 years old, 1975, I walk in. My dad's watching it. I see this big blue ring because in Florida, we had Canal 23. Canal 23, they showed L.A. wrestling from the Olympic. Big ring, and I was kind of fascinated. I wasn't a sports guy, but I'm like, this looks cool, interesting, in the vein of roller derby, which I think was also on at that same time. So I'm watching it. No real opinion forms in my head. And the next thing I know, they got that big bloody angle, and it's the Hollywood Blondes against Louis Tillett and Dennis Stamp. And during this match, Louis Tillett takes it upon himself to get revenge on Sir Oliver Humperdinck for past deeds and plunges a foreign object directly into his eye, and he starts bleeding all over the place. They put patches over his eyes. The Hollywood Blondes come in. They comfort him like he's dying. Now, I said, that's it. I'm hooked immediately. That was like my first heroin shot. Done. I was turned out. That's it. You did it, wrestling. You got me. Also known as the worst day of my mother's life. And I thought wrestling was always going to be that good. And that was kind of the dragon that I was chasing ever since then. So I wanted to look real. I wanted to look bloody. I wanted to be shocking. And when that happened was few and far between. But I just happened to see the greatest angle of all time, as far as I'm concerned, from a Fangoria perspective. And that was it. That's all I needed.
But this is going to sound strange, but I really mean this. Back then, at least the promoters had nuance when it came to ultraviolence like that. Unlike ECW, where they had gore in every match sometimes, or other smaller promotions in the 80s and 90s. The difference was something that was special. That didn't happen all the time.
Right.
It did happen enough that would entice you and drag you into the arena, but it was used judiciously. Because if you did it one match after another, some kind of a cut or something, it would become rote. You would not be shocked and disturbed by it. You probably heard screaming in the arena watching that tape because people were buying it.
You know, that part, I wasn't even aware. That didn't register on me. It was just kind of like, in my own world, I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Because sports didn't do it for me. I was always kind of a weird kid. And I mean, what else is there that even comes close to being like wrestling? As far as personalities, I always say that wrestling is sports with all the boring stuff cut out. Because every interview's... because it's supposed to be all action, it's supposed to be all drama, and it's supposed to be all the best part of what you want to say. And you're not going to come out there like an old-fashioned babyface and wish your opponent well and, we tried to hand the football down the road and, next time we'll handle the football better. No, wrestling didn't have any of that. And as a kid, I'm like, look at these boring slabs of meat. I don't give two craps about their Dolphins, and they were just coming off of their perfect season too when I came down to Florida. So if you can imagine, I come from New Jersey, and everything is about the 1974 Dolphins' perfect season. I can't stand football, can't stand the Dolphins, can't even stand Miami. So it was rammed down my throat. So it was kind of wrestling was like a refuge for me. Because I got the NFL film treatment by watching Championship Wrestling from Florida, because they would do the same kind of film treatment, nice and slow motion, showing a Bob Roop shoulder breaker instead of Garo Yepremian or Larry Zonka that all my friends were into. And that was my childhood. Wrestling became my refuge. And I could see it live every week on TV and in the buildings. So it was the greatest thing ever.
I have to give the London magazines from that way before my era. I started in '88, but I'll tell you what, the writing of those articles, the way they describe this wanton brutality must be abolished, or else the sport shall perish. It's just they had that tone. They were the ultimate. It was always written in the ultimate good guy voice back then. There was no rooting for the heels at all. This abomination must be curtailed. It was just
definitely.
You know what I'm saying? The psychology, I think that the promotions worked hand in hand with the London books and came up with this stuff, and it was just off the charts. Like the tone when Pro Wrestling Illustrated started in '79 was entirely different. It was more, I don't know, toned down. But the mid-'70s writing style, holy smokes.
Yeah, because and as a kid, I kind of bought into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird nether region. It never occurred to me, is it fake or real? But they would have these articles like the night a Cub reporter cost Wahoo McDaniel the NWA championship against Harley Race. That wasn't you, by the way, was it, by any chance? That was like 77. You might have been. Oh, what's that?
No, I didn't start till 88 there.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're a Cub. He was a Cub reporter, so I didn't know if you were like interning or something on your way up at the time.
No, I wasn't. I was just a little tadpole in 77. Are you kidding? I was 1 year in high school.
All right, then. But no, it would just be, they would, this is one of the main reasons that I feared people like Abdullah the Butcher, because they would be so serious about it, you know?
Oh, I'm so glad I have to, it's around 72. And we used to have the NWF Cleveland promotion in Albany, New York, near where I lived, and they took it off. But my dad put a rotating antenna on the roof of our house in upstate New York. And if on a day, if the weather was just right, I could watch the Utica TV station, which is another town that the NWF promoted in. They had a match. I remember it was young Abdullah. He was still pretty trim by his standards in the white karate pants.
Yeah.
Against a preliminary wrestler named Tommy R. There was no foreign object use in this match, but to me, it was the single most horrifying moment of my kid wrestling career. He's got Tommy R prone, just laying on the mat, and Abdullah, for all intents and purposes, looks like he's trying to bite out his esophagus.
Yeah,
seriously. And I don't know how they pulled this off. It looked like there was blood forming on his throat and stuff like that. And he gets done demolishing this guy, and that was it. And I'm like dribbling a basketball outside, going, I can't believe what I just saw. Oh my God.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, Jack Reynolds is on the show going, the list of savagery, Abdullah, this man must be barred. Look at the injuries. Broken sternum, head contusion, ruptured esophagus, he goes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, as an impressionable 12 or 13-year-old, I'm like, this guy's too much.
Right. And you know something so cool? This is probably one of the best scares I ever got at wrestling, it was my first ever show. And up till that time, I had been looking at the magazines, including Abdullah the Butcher. And as far as I know, I swear to God, I thought that he literally killed and ate people if he could get away with it, like in his hometown of the Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty sure that's exactly what he did. I didn't, I couldn't even conceive of anything different by the way they presented him back then. And by the way, the classic Abdullah, for those of us in the know, is of course the original white karate pants. That was the Abdullah pants,
Yeah.
It was never quite the same when he went to the red, and even worse was the black and some of the fancier versions and all that. The white one was so scary because as a kid, I didn't think it was a karate-gi thing. I thought it was like butcher pants, like he's going to get blood on himself, so he may as well. I thought it was like an apron. That's what I really thought it was. I thought it was really like an apron because he figured I'm going to get blood on myself.
Abdullah,
I may as well cover it up,
Abdullah, the literal butcher.
What kind of what would you like, sir?
Would you like leg of leg, sir? Here you go.
Right. Don't leave the cut of meat up to him. But so now I'm reading all these magazines where Abdullah the Butcher is on par with Charles Manson as far as I'm concerned. So now it's my first ever match, August 13th, 1975. We're like in the second or third row. It is Jerry Briscoe and Abdullah the Butcher in a lights out, all over the building, no DQ match. Now, I have never been to wrestling before. I don't know what's allowed. I've never seen anything like this since, except in Japan. But this I saw live, and I was 9. And Abdullah and Jerry the Briscoe, as he's known, go brawling up into the stands. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be utter insanity. People are going to die tonight. Abdullah the Butcher is getting close to all these people. Anything can happen. And I was on the other side of the building from this. Like, they were doing it across from me, and I saw it. I'm like, that's it. He's going to, like, literally kill somebody up there. Because, I mean, now, after my whole wrestling career, I don't think I've seen one match go up into the stands like that match did. And again, I thought that would be a regular occurrence. I thought they were allowed to go all over the building. That was the only time I saw it. And it happened to be Abdullah. And I just really honestly was so scared because I'm thinking they're over there now, all the way across the bottom floor and up the bleachers a little. But what if he decides to run right over here? You know, because it was the same thing. And I was scared. So that's what it was like back then. I mean, I don't know how young or slow you have to be scared of a professional wrestler in today's environment. But man, it was pretty easy to be scared of a wrestler back then.
Yeah, it's really true. Oh, here comes the Sheik. Here comes Abby. Here comes several others, and the crowd parts.
Did you ever see the Sheik
they're
live?
walking out. No, I did. Excuse me, I did see the Sheik live, but it was kind of like, you know, right at the tail end. He was working with Tri-State a couple matches, and I saw him twice there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I forgot the first time I saw it, and somebody pointed out a video clip on YouTube that you could see me sitting at ringside. I did remember
really?
that. Yeah.
Nice.
They just, and again, they brawled all over the place throughout they didn't really go into the crowd, but they went all over the arena. And then they had a cage match where they really didn't need the cage because, again, they started brawling all over the arena, you know.
For that.
And there were no conclusive wins or losses, I don't think, but who cared? That's why people bought their tickets, to see them go wild on each other.
Right. The way that TWA presented it, it was kind of like a museum piece or like a gift to the fans because they were both past their prime, but you know, that was the most hardcore of hardcore crowds, the precursor to ECW. And if I was a promoter, I would do the same thing, you know, like let's give him Abdullah and the Sheik while we still can.
I was there for most of those Philadelphia events with VCW. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I will say this. The whole concept from Joe Goodhart and then later Todd Gordon was, we are sick of the homogenized WWF, Matilda the Bulldog, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to take you to Memphis. We're going to take you to Canada. We're going to bring in Abdullah and the Sheik. We're going to have a last blood battle royal. You know what that is? The only one who doesn't bleed wins. Get it? And the only one left standing without a cut is the victor. Everybody else, of the 20 guys in the ring, bled.
That's great. That's great.
But you see what I'm saying? They were bringing back that feel. They were bringing back that, you know, lurid wrestling magazine, I guess, mindset. And it worked for them. I'm telling you. You know, a place like that could draw 1,200 to 3,000 people in that era, early 90s, late 80s. That's almost miraculous. They had people busted in from New York City to go to Philadelphia to see those cards.
Yeah. Well, you know, because the people who were weaned on real wrestling were not getting it in the early 90s.
They weren't getting it anymore. No, they weren't.
The late 80s, early 90s was kind of like a dust bowl of professional wrestling. It was like the Great Depression because everything sucked.
You know, I got a job at a record store. One of my first full-time jobs before I became a newspaper writer and then later the wrestling magazines, right? And I'm like, oh boy, I'm working in a record store. All my favorite rock bands. No, it's 1980, 1981, and on the charts are Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Depeche Mode. I'm going, where are all my bands?
Yeah.
This isn't what I'm here for. What? Men Without Hats. What? Who? So
yeah,
I get a job with the wrestling magazines, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's 91, 92, and I've got Papa Shango and
right.
That whole just gimmick after extreme.
Yeah.
And not extreme in the way we're talking about, extreme in the implausibility of the gimmicks.
Right.
Even there, listen, I still consider, and this is my most unpopular opinion, that The Undertaker did so much damage to pro wrestling it can't be calculated. Because it's the first promoted star where they just threw it at you and said, here you go, enjoy your fake.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. Thank you. A million thanks. I've said the same thing. As we all know, I consider WWF an abomination and everything they've stood for since 1985. But The Undertaker in particular, let's not sell moves. Let's do supernatural shit if I may. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know
all of a
exactly
sudden,
what you're saying.
excuse me, but now wrestling is pyro coming out of turnbuckles when, by the way, the whole world knows because they've seen it on the behind the making of the scenes video that it's all pre-rigged for the Kane and Undertaker to do all their magic tricks. I'm getting enraged over here just thinking about it.
But there's the thing. I mean, it got so broad and so obvious and so, stupid. Now, look, I'm not going to damn the people portraying Kane and The Undertaker. I think Mark Calloway's a great wrestler. If you stripped away the stupidity, he could work a really good match. I was never so happy as when they put him on a motorcycle for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow, he's normal.
Yeah.
It's all over. And then, of course, he semi-retires and then comes back with a hat.
No
and
problem
I'm like, oh, gosh.
No problem with him in the ring. But for him to gain his powers from supernatural forces, okay, it's one thing to be delusional and think that you have these powers, but to actually use these powers and have, you know what I mean? Like, okay, come on.
I just, this is when take guys like us, you and me, that whole era, growing up with that, and say you don't count. We're just going to put on a show, and the wrestling was almost incidental to all the stupidity.
Right, which is why I hated it so much, because even my dad was with us through the 97, 98 Wrestling Wars, and he's like, are these people ever going to wrestle? Because he was a fan in the days of Gene Stanley, and like, here it is 45 minutes knee deep into a Kevin Nash promo. He's like, are these people ever going to wrestle? What is going on here? And he would just like fast forward through the whole show and stop on like a match. The whole thing began to change so much. It became something that you could watch with your dad to something that you could probably watch with your Spectrum support group, because it's just cosplay and lunacy now.
No, there's been a lot of that. I mean, I remember sitting in Todd Gordon's kitchen because, I was the first announcer on an Eastern Championship Wrestling.
I did not know that.
Yes, and the precursor to ECW. The tapes are even on YouTube. Somebody posted one of them.
I got to look that up.
You'll enjoy the mullet. Anyway, I had a mullet back then, but anyway, here's the thing. I'm sitting with Todd, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning. We're going to go to the studio to do a television taping. And here come The Undertaker, or something with Papa Shango was going on. And Todd just looked up and goes, they're going to kill the business.
Good for him. Good. Yeah.
Well, again,
exactly.
The first time I ever spoke to Todd Gordon backstage at one of the Trans World events was, we got in this conversation after 10 minutes. We felt we knew each other for 20 years, because it was like, oh man, I wish it was more Memphis style. Have you ever been to Memphis? I said, yeah, I've been to Memphis. And then we would talk and talk and talk. And his dream was, and just like Joel's was, just all action matches will do. We don't want any more of this homogenized, goofy, macabre silliness. And that's when Todd and I hit it off. And believe it or not, I was his first choice as television announcer, but I'm glad I thought I sucked. And I heard some tapes that really wasn't that bad, but I'm glad I stepped away, because it led to my friend Joey Styles becoming the lead announcer in ECW. And everybody knows the job he did. Yeah, Joey, believe it or not, was an intern at PWI.
Huh.
People do not know this. And he came to the area to do that. Joey wanted to be in wrestling real bad. And you know what? When he walked in that office, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I know this is true. When I got hired there, I swear to you, I still consider myself the second most knowledgeable wrestling guy in that office after Bill Apter. I just knew I was.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was proving myself every day. I was throwing stuff out, and this happened in 71. This was from this is from that. Joey was number 3.
Yeah.
This kid knew everything. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
And you could smell his future.
Right.
And one day, Paul Heyman comes to the office to visit. We had a conference room with clear glass, clear glass. You could see through it, but you couldn't hear through it. And I see Paul's talking to Joey, and his hands are moving around. And then Joey talks to him, and, his hands are moving around. And I turned to somebody. I said, they're going to work together.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah. Nice. He was a good fit.
He was an excellent.
I'm gonna,
And you know,
I'm
the
gonna have to look.
nicest. Joey's one of the nicest people I work with. And like I said, he'll never hear this. I think he's so out of the business now that he ignores it entirely.
Yeah.
But if he ever heard my words, he would know that I have nothing but the highest admiration for Joey Styles. He was born to do that stuff. I think he got
very
soured on it
nice.
for whatever reasons, but he was really talented and everything he did was original. You could smell the influences, but he had an original approach.
Yeah, I thought he was a great fit for that promotion at that point in time. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so you must have known stately Wayne Manor during those days.
I did. He was my color man. We did a show from the Chestnut Cabaret, right?
Yeah.
Did you know this? You probably didn't know this. And they wanted me to do play-by-play, and sitting next to me was stately Wayne Manor, who was my Jesse Ventura. You know something? I sat back after this TV taping, right? It was like 3 hours worth of TV. And I sat back, and I'm staring at the wall. And I swear to God, this is what I said to myself, Bob, you suck. I heard my voice through the headphones. I didn't think I had the right resonance to be an announcer. I didn't think.
Yeah.
Todd didn't feel that way, but I did. So after that taping, I go to Todd and I go, you can do better than this. Now, here's the funny part about this. It's 30 years later, and there's the WWE Network, right? They had a section called Hidden Gems. There was a videotape called ECW's Bloodiest Battles or something, Bloodiest Matches, Bloodiest Moments. And what's on the tape? Me and Stately Wayne Manor doing 3 matches.
Oh, wow.
And I listened to it. I watched it and went, oh, God, it wasn't that bad.
Oh, man. You threw it all away for nothing.
Todd didn't fire me or anything like that. I just said, I don't think I got the goods. I ended up, still working with Mario Savoldi, but I was just doing like commentating, and interviews and stuff like that. But as I look back on it, there was one call that I did that I thought was actually pretty good. So I don't know what to say other than I was short-sighted.
Yeah, sometimes it pays to stick it out a little, as my people tell me.
But, I loved Todd, and I love the guys. I love the Sandman and Johnny Hotbody and Tony Stetson and JT Smith and all those cats. And they were the hardest working sons of guns you ever wanted to meet. They really meant it. They were really working hard. And I'm thinking, get somebody that can describe it a little better. So they did. And they went through another guy named Jay Sully, I think, for a while. And then eventually Joey hit the scene when they became ECW. And then Sky was eliminated.
Yeah.
And I've been so happy to walk away from something in my whole life.
I'm going to have to seek that out. It just shows you got to stick it out sometimes. And
I can't find that tape now, though, because it was on the Hidden Gems on the network. I don't think they segued it on the Peacock or anything else like that. But who knows? It might be floating on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, you never know what's out there. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've talked way too much. I'm sorry.
No. This is a 7-hour episode tonight anyway, right? So, I mean,
I got to stop at 6:50. Yeah. Right.
I want to talk about a really fun one. We're going into Lights Out, so I'm going to kick things up a notch because we're not on video.
No, of course.
So, in continuing with the theme, not to be a big egomaniac, but I think we should talk about at least one more thing that I like. So, I want to talk about just a couple. Would you rather hear about a couple of really cool angles or a couple of really good matches that I've seen live in person with my own naked, steaming eyes throughout the years?
Give me the whole bunch. What am I?
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, here's what I did. I'm into this like no preparing thing, like Jerry the King Lawler.
Me too.
And but I do like to take notes so I can refer to them at such times as this. So I went out today, oiled myself up, went in front of the house. Took me 15 minutes, and I wrote down like 7 pages of notes. Your favorite this, your favorite that, for whatever came up. And so, just apropos of nothing, I want to reel off. There's only 1, 2, 3. I thought of a bunch of really good matches that I want to at least discuss 1 or 2. But let me tell you about a couple of really good angles that I don't think people talk about enough. And the first one is probably the most obscure, and that would be the Jerry Lawler, Joe LeDuc arm wrestling fire challenge. Do you recall that?
All I remember of the LeDuc feud is when he threw him out of the ring.
And
hurt him, I don't know if I know this particular angle, so please fill me in.
the true Memphians, it was a great angle, and I think it was 84-ish. But funny story about that, one of the famous video packages that they would always show to get Joe LeDuc over, especially in Memphis, is him pulling cars and throwing things around and twirling buses and having the big, tug of war, and also would always include him picking Jerry the King Lawler up above his head and throwing him out of the ring on top of one of those big blue heavy ringside Mid-South Coliseum tables, which I've felt in real life, and it's like a piece of the earth. They don't move. Those things are heavy. So Jerry the King Lawler tore his tendon on his leg when that happened.
Right.
It was a pre-planned spot because Jerry the King Lawler was not going to go into the hospital for an unplanned ripped tendon. He was going to go into the hospital for now I can't think of the easy word. The thing where you can't have kids, where they snip you.
Okay. All right. Mastectomy or?
Yeah, vasectomy. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Anyway, so I said to King, that was one of the first tapes I saw before I even got to Memphis. My friend Pete Letterberg showed me these videos of Memphis. So the minute I met Jerry Lawler, I saw that thing where LeDuc threw you onto that table. He's like, yeah. I go, how'd you take that? And he goes, I just took it. But so now it's like 84 or 85, and they're out there on the set, and Joe LeDuc comes out there, and he's calling Jerry the King a big wussy. And now Jerry the King Lawler comes out, and he's wearing like this pinstripes. He's like a bumblebee outfit, like these big red and black striped sleeveless shirt that was in vogue in like the early 80s. He comes out there looking totally LeDuc's physical inferior. And Lance is out there. He's like, oh, come on now, Joe, with this. And LeDuc is out there like, no, let me tell you something. I want to challenge you to an arm wrestling match, Lawler. And so LeDuc throws together this ad hoc collection he finds this tiny table, these two chairs, and Jimmy Hart is helping. And then the coup de grace, he puts these two lit candles on the table. He's like, get that thing lit. Get the camera over here. He's like, Jerry Lawler, I challenge you to an arm wrestling match, and the loser is going to burn his hand. And LeDuc and Lawler comes out, and like every great Lawler angle, Joe LeDuc comes out there, and he goes, I got a challenge for you, Jerry Lawler. It's going to be an arm wrestling match. And he comes out there, and they start throwing the tables and the chairs together. And Jimmy Hart starts lighting the candles and everything. And Lance is like, what's going on here? And Joe LeDuc goes, Lawler, I challenge you to an arm wrestling match, and the loser is going to burn his hand. And Lawler is like smirking at him like, are you crazy? I'm not going to arm wrestle you out here. I don't have to arm wrestle you or anything. And Lawler's like, you're scared. You're a big wimp. And Lawler's like, after much goading, like every Lawler angle, he acts like he's not going to do it, like it's not going to happen. And then by the end of it, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. All right. So Lawler's like, all right, I'll do your stupid thing. And then they sit down, and Lawler's like checking so Jimmy Hart doesn't attack him, and he's looking around him and everything. They start arm wrestling. Now they're face to face, arm to arm, like the movie Over the Top. And where either hand is going to go down is a lit candle. So Jimmy Hart is out there in white, rooting his guy on. Jimmy Hart. Lance is like, oh, I don't know about this. And out of nowhere, King comes up with one of his famous fireballs, puts it into one of the candles. It engulfs in flame, throws it into LeDuc's face. He goes ass over tea kettle, out of his chair, into the set, knocks the table over, knocks everybody over. He's up on the riser, blinded. Jimmy Hart comes out, and he goes, oh my God. Jimmy Hart comes out with the towel. He's like, you blinded a man. I can't believe this. And Jerry Lawler does a little fist pump, and he looks at the camera, and he goes, that's where you're stupid, LeDuc, in your head. That's where you're weak. And he leaves the frame victorious. And it was so great. And that wasn't even like one of the most major angles of all time, but it was just classic. Out of the blue, resurrecting a 10-year-old feud on something so simple like that.
Yeah. Memphis.
And you guys should look it up, by the way. It's the LeDuc Lawler Arm Wrestling Challenge.
That's one of my favorite things. The Memphis TV show. Just the best. My favorite the Memphis Channel 5 show was my favorite wrestling program of all time. Televised weekly series. I was proud to say I was on one of the episodes in 1991 or 92. And I'm just, you never knew what was going to happen. And it was always wild and woolly. And they didn't pull a lot of punches. Everything from Eddie Gilbert hitting Jerry Lawler with a car to all different kinds of mayhem. And even in the 90s when I was with the magazine, they never changed it until, the passage of time, WWE and all that stuff. But and Lance Russell and Dave Brown, good gravy. They were your family, man. They felt like your family when you listen to them talk.
Literally and in real life, because if Lance knew you, he knew you. And, I kept in sporadic touch with him over the years, but I was in a little more touch with him during his last years, really, because he actually called me, of all people, out of the blue after 30, 40 years, and he was looking for photos and advice. And he did not want to, he was making his comeback to the Jackson Coliseum for his final victory lap. And it was one of those big Memphis celebrations, and it was a really big deal because it was his first appearance in a long time. And he was asking for my advice, of all people. I couldn't believe it. To me, it's probably the greatest achievement that I have done in this business. Makes me feel the best out of anything, I would say that. Is that he was looking for some photos and he thought he was just going to give them away or something. And he's like, well, what do people charge? Or I'm like, listen, he's like, I don't want to have the people think I'm ripping them off or making a money grab or anything. I go, listen, people are going to be mad if they can't spend $25 to get an autographed photo from you. He goes, really? And he wasn't saying it in a greedy way. He's like, I'm not going to charge that much. And I don't believe he did. And I go, charge whatever you want, but I'm telling you, the people are going to be spending money, waiting to spend their money buying something from you. So I sent him a bunch of photos, even did some custom stuff for him that he loved, because I did one that was 3 photos of him just to show you how he had no ego. There's 3 photos of him holding the mic from different shots that I put together as kind of a montage. And he's like, he goes, I like that 3-way thing you did. I go, yeah, that's called a triptych. He's like, oh, I don't know the fancy name. I go, no, it's just a fancy name for 3 of something. Don't worry. And he laughed because, he didn't mind admitting that he didn't know what a triptych was. He's like, I don't know what that is, but I like the picture. Just the nicest guy. And if he knew you, he would ask about your circumstances and your family and your dog. The salt of the earth and of anyone in wrestling. He was a saint, and he was just exactly what you see is what you get. And you know that. Yeah.
Wow. And the only, I met Lance in the NWA of all places. I did not meet him in Memphis. Remember when they hired him for the NWA and proceeded to do very little with him, but that's where I met him. And when I went to Memphis, it was Dave Brown and Michael St. John, but they were fine. But you know what? Everybody missed Lance every minute he wasn't there. And that's not putting anybody else down. You have to miss Lance Russell. He had to.
Absolutely. And it didn't help that Corey was everything out of his mouth was a Lanceism. He's like, oh, he's two out of him, which is
That's ridiculous.
It's like me starting a promotion and talking about the 22 movable vertebrae like I'm Gordon Sully, you gotta, you gotta get your own shtick.
Yeah.
So,
something, you just brought up one of your favorite things and it just came out of the blue.
What's that?
Lance Russell.
Corey Macklin?
Lance Russell, of
course.
Yeah.
Needless to say, greatest person I met probably in life, if not definitely in wrestling, but could very easily be in life as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
A real angel of a man.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I'm no angel. You're certainly not. But I am always very proud to have you on the show. I just think we have a blast every time you come on, and I'm hoping you're enjoying your appearances here as much as we enjoy having you here.
Hey, it's an absolute delight. And I hope you folks all hit me up on social media, whatnot. And I think we only got to 2 or 3 things I like, but Bob and I hit it off so well that that's just the way it goes.
Dude, I am of the no notes podcasting style. On April 8th, 1988, do you remember when I don't want to be that guy. I never want to be that guy. I have a life. All right. I cannot memorize how many times Tito Santana held the Intercontinental. I don't want to memorize it. All right.
No, nobody
My
should.
interest in wrestling is more of the vibe that you and I talked about, the things wrestling did to you as an observer, as a fan, as anybody who looks at it and goes, "What am I looking at?"
Yeah, and I'll just leave you a teaser. I know that by the tone of your voice, you're trying to put a button on it. However, let me just say this: I was compiling a list of the greatest matches I've ever seen in real life, and then a couple on TV, whatever. And the criteria for that were, I prefer wild and woolly, bloody action. Now I'm at the age where, yes, I can appreciate a Jack Briscoe or a perfectly technical match or whatever. But as a kid, and especially as a photographer, I liked when the whole arena was going berserk and you didn't know what was happening. And the younger you are, the better it is, because there was true violence in the air. Anything could literally happen. You're standing on a chair trying to see, while 17 Haitians are approaching from this way. 3 Cubans are coming up with a knife from this way. 8 elderly Jews are up at the ringside pushing against the thing. Dusty's bleeding. King Curtis is walking out. The cops are going nuts. They're turning the light off. The overhead lights are on. The bell's ringing. Come on. I mean, so when I was going over my list of matches, there was nothing that I included after like 1980 because none of that stuff happened after 1980. So what I'm really into is the brawls, the environment, the grit, and everything. So let that be a teaser and a chooser for our part 2, which at this rate, it'll be a multi-award winning Peabody series, if I'm not mistaken. And hey, man, I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate you having me.
I always look forward to seeing you. We kind of met out of the blue, and I'm glad we did because it's like I said, you're really good at what you do. You take another minute or two and hype anything you got going, including your new role with Tony, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I'm I feel a little imposter syndrome saying this, but I'm the appointed Florida historian for Tony Rogers' tremendous pro wrestling time tunnel, which if you guys are not familiar, come over to my page on the Facebook, Howard Baum or Hardway Art. You will see the great work that Tony Richards does. I'm on all the podcasts because, I really, honestly, it's too much work. And I really respect and appreciate all the work that you guys do. All my podcasting friends, Ray Russell, Brian R. Solomon, the aforementioned Tony Richards, I know how much work it is just to book a guest, just to edit it, to put it together, to put all the times together and to hype it and put it all on the socials. It's a lot of work. And you know what that means? Howard ain't doing that. But that's why I love coming on these shows, because I always wanted to be the Charles Nelson Riley, not the Johnny Carson. You know what I mean? I'd rather just show up, not get too stale, go away for a few months, and then remind you all that I'm here. And hopefully next time I will be with a website in hand. And that's the plan.
Very good. Very good. That's a nice capper right there. Folks, it's Howard Baum. You're one of a kind, man. Come back as soon as you can. You hear me?
Appreciate you, brother.
Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with the elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. Well, there's another one in the books for everybody. Howard Baum, there's nobody else like him. I keep saying it, and you know it. Thank you, Howard, for being here once again. Thank you, Joe Puccio, for being here once again. Our website, outdatedwrestlinghour.buzzsprout.com. All of our episodes are there at the click of a button. You can listen to them right then and there. It's all there for you. Also on the website, information about the Outdated Wrestling Hour fan club, where for a nominal fee, you can help us perpetuate this program and our sister monthly program, the Outdated Entertainment Hour. We got another one coming up real soon, and something you probably won't expect. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I'll let that cat out of the bag. It's about a movie celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. You can guess which one it is. Write to me at outdatedwrestling@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook, our main conduit for information. I'm the only Bob Smith that sings with BB King, I think. And I'm also at outdated_Bob at X and Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads and all the other social media apps I can think of, Instagram as well. That's it for now. We'll be back with another show next week. We'll put a nice bow on this one. And things seem to be looking up. I don't know what's going on with my health quite of yet. I got another procedure to do. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this live on the air. It's nobody's business. I don't think anyone would care anyway. But the thing is that I may be in and out of things for a little bit in the early part of November, but I don't intend to miss any shows. So I think we're going to keep the ball rolling in terms of when the show comes out every Friday, because I'm free. Yes, I can't sing anymore, but yeah, I got a lot of free time on my hands now. So we'll be able to do interviews day and night. We're going to devote more effort into the show than we have. Not that we haven't before that, but things are going to open up nicely, and we're going to surprise you with some really cool things. We're going to hit the road again to go into a very famous facility to talk to a Hall of Famer. Stay right where you are. Please come back to the Outdated Wrestling Hour. My name is Bob Smith. And in the words of Ringo Starr, like we say every single week, and we proved it can be done. Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love.